This video is brought to you by America First Insight. Help support the growing conservative movement by becoming a member today. And if you want to support this channel, you can also use the code REAL when becoming a member. Thank you and enjoy the video. As most of you have probably heard by now, President Trump's border czar Tom Homan has just announced that Operation Metro Surge is finally coming to an end. And yes, this is real. This is not speculation or whatever. He confirmed during his press conference today that Operation Metro Surge is in fact ending. And for those that live under a rock and don't know what this is, Operation Metro Surge was the surge of ICE and Border Patrol agents into Minneapolis and really the state of Minnesota as a whole, but mostly Minneapolis in the surrounding area. That's the name of the operation, and it's finally ending after a couple of months. And I know some people are going around and saying Trump's administration, they bent the knee, they gave up to Tim Walz and Jacob Fry. It's all over. They surrendered. Deportations aren't happening. And let's be clear about one thing. We got to wait and see the long-term effects of this operation ending. We don't know what's going to happen in a couple of weeks when these agents eventually leave. And it sounds like they are starting to leave as we speak. So we're going to kind of know in the next couple of days, if not weeks, what the impact of this ending really is. But guys, based on the current information we got right now, this is not the Trump administration bending the knee and giving up and surrendering. In fact, you could argue they kind of accomplished everything they wanted to do. Now, again, we got to wait and see on some stuff. We got to wait and see the impact of this. But based on what we know right now, I would argue that this was a huge victory for President Trump and the administration. Tom Homan said a significant drawdown will begin this week and will continue into next week. He said he will remain on the ground for a little longer to ensure a successful end of the operation. So right there, it's confirmed. Tom Homan himself said, yeah, I talked to President Trump and we decided it's time to begin drawing down agents out of Minneapolis. On November 29th, the Trump admin began sending more than 3,000 immigration agents into Minneapolis in what officials dubbed Operation Metro Surge. And there should be a quick note of clarification here. It was not originally 3,000. It did become 3,000 after a while, but at the start, it was only around, I think it was 2,000 agents. But after it became clear that local law enforcement, they weren't doing their job, they were allowing agitators to do stuff, things were getting ugly quickly, they sent an additional 1,000 agents into the city, mainly from Border Patrol. These guys were in a support capacity. That's the whole point of sending an additional 1,000 agents into the city. But then, when local law enforcement began to finally get off their ass and do something, that's when we began to pull back a little bit. And remember, a couple weeks ago, everybody was claiming, oh my goodness, we pulled out of Minneapolis, it's all over. No, all we did was pull out roughly 1,000 Border Patrol agents from the area because local law enforcement, they began to work with ICE. So we had support on the ground. Therefore, these guys weren't needed. Remember, everybody was saying deportations ended. And after that, they still arrested a bunch of more people. But now, at the press conference, they're now beginning to say that they're going to begin withdrawing the rest of these agents they sent into Minneapolis. And that's causing another shitstorm because yet again, people are claiming it's all over. The administration bent the knee to Jacob Fry and Tim Walz and all that stuff. Listen, like I said, we got to see what happens in the next couple of weeks because every time the Trump admin says something people don't like, the opposite occurs. It seems like that happens every single time. But people have to understand that this was supposed to be a temporary operation. I can't believe I have to explain this, but even from the get-go, this was not supposed to be a permanent operation where they forever had 2,000 agents in Minneapolis. They had them there for a couple of months. And it's been a couple of months. At some point, you reach your goal. Again, we want to deport everybody. And Tom Homan clarified here that if you're in this country illegally, you're not off the table. But the whole point of Operation Metro Surge was two things. One, go after The really bad people, the people that no matter how you try to spin it, they gotta go. They're criminals. I mean, they broke the law when they entered the country illegally, but we're talking about murderers, rapists, some really bad people. We got them off the streets. That was the main target of Operation Metro Surge because, like we said, local law enforcement wasn't doing a damn thing. And in fact, before the surge happened, we already had a couple hundred agents on the ground. And people are just ignoring that. People are making it sound like, oh, the operation's ending. We pulled back all the agents. No. All we're doing is pulling back the additional agents we sent into Minneapolis in the beginning of December. We had roughly 150 agents in the city before the operation began. And more than likely, it's going to be between like 200 to like 500 agents after the operation is done. That's what's going to more than likely occur. Just the rest of these agents, we don't really need them now because apparently the administration, they reached their targets. Not that they deported everybody, they didn't yet, but their goal was a couple thousand egregious cases. Get these people off the streets. They're causing a lot of problems. They're a danger to society. And as of last week, they reported over 4,000 people have been arrested. So right now, that number's probably up to like 4,500 as of now. 4,500 illegal immigrants arrested as of like last week or whatever. Well, that's a substantial amount, especially for Minneapolis. People are making it sound like Minneapolis has 10 million illegals, which they probably have a lot more than it's reported. But the official numbers and the official estimates, there's roughly 90,000 illegal immigrants in Minneapolis, according to like Pew Research. So you're talking about a sizable chunk of these illegal immigrants that got arrested. And these are the really bad ones, the ones we got off the streets right away. That was the whole point of the operation. And now they're going to do the same thing in more than likely either Phoenix, Las Vegas, somewhere in Texas, Ohio, somewhere else. They're not just going to have a giant operation in one city forever, especially Minneapolis. They're not going to do that. They're more than likely going to go into another major city. We don't know where yet, but it was always supposed to be a temporary operation. And we're still going to have a couple hundred agents on the ground deporting people, arresting people. But the difference is now we have local law enforcement doing something. And Tom Homan confirmed this. He said, we now have the ability to arrest criminal aliens in the safety and security of jails throughout the state at the time they've been arrested. And he's also directed the strategic placement of officers in certain areas throughout the state that can respond quickly to sheriffs that want to release somebody. So there you go. That's what happened. Tom Homan forced Minnesota to change their policies and allow local law enforcement to work with ICE. So if they have somebody in the county jail, that was the big one. A couple thousand people in these jails, when they're about to be released, ICE can go get them. And Tom Homan has said this 100 times now. You only need like one or two agents when you have to go into jail because it's secured, it's safe for the agents. You don't have to worry about a crowd or whatever. You just need one or two agents to go get these people. Well, when you do these big raids, you need dozens. But now that you have not only the county jails on board, apparently even the sheriffs are on board. They're going to work with ICE. When they arrest somebody, they're going to release them. They just talk to ICE about it. You don't need that many agents. That's the thing that nobody's talking about. So we got what we wanted. The whole point was two things. Deal with the really bad people on the streets right away, get as many people out of there as possible, and force Minnesota to change their policies so it makes it a lot easier to deport more people without having to use 2,000 agents in the one city. Does this mean we're going to deport like 10,000 people a month? I'm not saying that. Like from Minneapolis, no. But the whole point is now we theoretically should have a consistent stream of deportations and arrests in Minneapolis because local law enforcement is actually doing something. So yeah, I would argue Just this alone is a huge victory. But on top of that, we have arrested between 4 to 5,000 illegal immigrants since the operation began. That's a sizable chunk of that population in Minneapolis. Again, we don't know for sure. The official estimates is like 90 to 100,000. So basically, like 5% or 4% of the illegal population in Minneapolis has been arrested. We want more, of course, and we want to deport everybody, but they're focused on the criminals, the really bad criminals, not just the ones that crossed the border 5 minutes ago. We're talking about the ones that commit crimes within the country, robberies, murder, God knows what else. That's why this is huge and why I still have a lot of confidence that we actually achieved what we wanted. And it's not just we arrested a bunch of people. ICE in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, they have found 3,000 of the missing children that the Biden administration lost. They couldn't find them. They disappeared forever. In a couple of months, they found 3,000 of them in Minneapolis. Does this sound like a failure? No. It looks like a significant success. And Tom Homan has also clarified not all the agents are being pulled back. In fact, federal government personnel assigned to conduct criminal investigations into the agitators, as well as the personnel assigned here for the fraud investigations, will remain in place until the work is done. So the other two big things we're worried about, the fraud investigations and these agitators, they're still going after them. They're doing everything we wanted and then some. All they're doing right now is they're reallocating resources out of the city because theoretically, with local law enforcement dealing with agitators, helping support ICE, and then working with them with the county jails, we don't really need that many agents when there's far bigger problems in, say, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, New York. Yeah, Minnesota has a lot of illegal immigrants, not compared to other states, though. Other states, it's a much bigger problem. So overall, based on everything we know as of now, which, again, this could all change, I think the operation was a success. You arrested between 4 to 5,000 illegal immigrants. That's roughly 5% of the population, at least of illegal immigrants in the city. And you got everything you wanted. You found 3,000 missing children. You got Minneapolis to work with law enforcement. You have the state government saying we're going to work with the county jails and, ICE can work with them. You got everything and then some. And again, this was not supposed to be a permanent thing. The whole point was to force Minneapolis and the state as a whole to change some policies so they can actually deport people much easier. Now, again, we got to make sure this doesn't turn into a thing where they deport nobody and then they just say this and then they leave. No, we got to make sure they are continuously arresting people, they're deporting people, and hopefully they keep their word that they're allowed to go to county jails to detain people and get them out of here. So yeah, overall, I think based on what we're hearing right now, it's a Trump victory. Now, right as I was about to render this video out, Tom Homan put out this statement and he confirms what we were saying, that the target list ICE has been significantly reduced and many public safety threats have been removed. We have obtained unprecedented level of coordination with counties to notify us before releasing a criminal alien from jail, allowing ICE to assume custody in the safety and security of a jail setting. Unlawful agitator activity has notably decreased, and state and local law enforcement has stepped up to shut down unlawful actions committed by agitators. So, yeah, it looks like they literally got everything they wanted. And a lot of these ICE agents, if this holds true, they're not really needed in Minneapolis. So again, this is another confirmation from Tom Homan that they're going to continue operations as is, but they're going to pull back a large chunk of the agents, like 90% or whatever. And we're going to really see in the next couple of weeks how this goes. If they're still arresting a bunch of people in Minneapolis in a couple of weeks, yeah, this was a huge win for Trump. If they don't, we'll see. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.